Yeah, good morning, everyone. This is Friday, May the 16th. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Port of the Islands Community Improvement District. And as is your custom, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Yeah, with that, we should note that Mr. Fish is not here today, and your counsel, Zach Lombardo, was taken to the hospital early this morning with some sort of cardiac event. We don't have any details. He's way too young to be having heart problems. As a result of that, and because we have some issues, and I want them to be part of the record here prior to the approval of the agenda, my suggestion is for us to deal with the necessary administrative matters that we have today, the utility operations report, capital improvements, the tentative budget for next year, anything related to parcel 13, the letter from Mr. Case's attorney, Mr. Truxton, suggesting updates and whatnot. My suggestion is when we get to the end of the meeting today that we not adjourn, but we continue the meeting to a time and date certain next week. Either Thursday or Friday would work best for me.
Okay.
That will prevent us from having to re-advertise and have an emergency notice in the newspaper and a host of other things on the website. So at your discretion, Mr. Chairman, when we get to the end of the day, I'm not going to let you adjourn. We'll continue today's meeting to a time and date certain next week. With that, all of the board members are here. Our utility operator is here. That takes us down to public.
One quick thing.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, but I would like to, from now on, I have asked that HOAs, associations in Port of the Islands, to please send one representative to each meeting so that we know that our information is getting back to the associations. Starting next meeting, I'm going to have a sign-up sheet here so that we know who's been here and who's not. Just trying to make sure that we're getting the communication across to everybody, if that's okay. Is there any HOA board members here today? Okay, so, good. All right, thank you.
Steve, I'm online as well. This is Steve Gunther.
And you're on, okay. How about Russ Kish, are you on? He's in Oregon. He was going to try to be on, but he might make it. Probably still looking for the on switch.
Doesn't say he's not computer literate.
No, he's not.
That, Mr. Chairman, that takes us down to approval of today's agenda. Again, I have no add-ons, but we will get to the end of the meeting and certain issues we'll identify in advance that will be part of next week's continuum.
Sewer water guys up front.
Yep,
Yeah, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Public comment?
Can we, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Public comment today from the community on matters not currently part of the agenda. I don't see anyone sign the sheet there. You'll have another opportunity to speak before we conclude today's meeting. Item 4, the approval of the minutes from your regular meeting that are behind the first tab there. This was April the 18th. There were no separate minutes. Item 5 today, it says utility rate workshop. That was just inadvertently left on the agenda from last month. But we'll need either a motion or suggested amendments to the minutes as presented.
Anybody have any?
I didn't have a chance to go through it, so.
Typically, we share these in advance with Ms. Hanson when they're initially, she's had an opportunity to look at the draft. If you're not prepared to approve them, we'll include that on matters for the continued meeting unless Ms. Hanson
Should we
is.
just? I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Dan, did you make the second?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Next will be our utility operations report. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, Matt Gillespie for Utility Solutions. Operations throughout the month are in accordance with our contract and regulatory requirements. All wastewater plant requirements were met and all water distribution requirements were met. Reuse system is functioning as intended. The station on the canal still has 2 pumps running on automatic. The wastewater treatment plant received 2.06 million gallons in April. The water plant produced 3.57 million gallons in April, and we distributed 10.62 million gallons of reuse in April. We read 265 meters in April. We used 970 gallons of chlorine. We inspected all pump stations weekly, performed odor control checks, and the upgrades to the plant with the filter is installed and it's operating. So it's,
I had a chance to stop out there when I was riding my bike by the other day and noticed all the vehicles there and figured that they got that,
this filter.
the disc filter in. So they took me for a little tour around there. It looks really good.
Good.
You guys are doing a bang up job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's they did a great job installing it. It's set up really well. We replaced a few leaking backflow preventers. We worked with the engineer on permit action items. Cleaned and repaired non-working chlorine analyzer. Did some programming work on SCADA. Replaced the pressure regulator on the air compressor and replaced some broken valve boxes. We had no accidents or OSHA reportable incidents.
Now, we had a big water leak over at the hotel again, right? Backflow preventer?
Yeah, there's a 2-inch backflow that went bad. I think it fed the efficiencies behind the hotel, yep.
No problem.
No, but we had to replace it. We couldn't,
No.
we tried to rebuild it, but it was
All good.
shot.
All right.
It was past.
Thank you for coming out there. I know it was out,
Yeah, no
out of normal hours.
Yeah, we got lucky. Our supplier opened up their shop for us to give us the parts we need, so
That was nice.
we were able to get it done.
Now the water coming out of that, is that before the meter or after the meter?
That is after the meter.
So they're gonna get a bill for that?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not a ton of water.
No?
No.
Okay, all
But
right.
I mean, that's up to you guys.
Well, one of the things about that is they knew about it on Friday, and rather than calling somebody, they went and got some jury
Oh,
rig
yeah.
stuff
We
to try
saw
to
that.
stop it up, so we could have stopped the water a lot sooner than that.
Sure.
So, okay,
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's here or there, but
Okay.
we gotta fix it.
all good.
These are some sample results for the marina docks. I know that the other board members, Russ has been asking for them. I have them today, but he's not here today, so I'm gonna give them to you guys. But everything came back good. The lab had us suggested tests for 5 different things in the water to determine if there's any extra dumping or anything like that going on, and everything came back really good, really low. Like, I mean, as low as they could possibly read it, so.
Great, that's good news.
Yep.
They had a meeting yesterday of the slip owners, is their annual meeting, and I went and attended that. And after the fact, I got a chance to talk to the board president and is it Mike, the dock master over there? And he was showing me a bunch of their records, how they're going through every boat now and doing monitoring to make sure that everything is being done right. And from what I could see, they're making an awful good effort to try to get this, work.
Yeah, I'm gonna work with him, putting that on a computer so that we can track it,
Yeah,
all his inspections.
yeah, I'm, from what I got from them, I was satisfied with exactly what they're doing. So
Great.
that's not your deal, but
Yeah,
Just
no,
wanted
that's
you to
good
know.
information. I'll leave this. with
Yeah,
you
we'll
guys,
get
if that's
that.
all right. Any other questions for me?
Guys, do we have fluoride in our water?
Do you what?
Do we have fluoride?
No, you don't.
You have to brush your teeth to get that now.
Yeah. That's right. So I'll just keep that.
This results here,
Mhm.
you think we should put this on our website, just for the community?
Yeah, we have in the past.
Okay,
water
let's do that.
quality, Analysis.
But that's for the water in the
Canal,
canal.
yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Okay,
I would like to put it on there just to ease everybody's mind that if this looks good, we should tell them that.
okay.
It does say marina docks on there, so
Okay,
it's,
Just hand me a copy before I
Will do.
leave today.
all right, thank you.
Where were the samples taken from?
Yeah.
the docks at the marina.
You just, somebody stood on the dock and just scooped up some water?
Yep.
There are two other nearby test sites that the county pollution control department also tests. One just south of the boat basin, and then one that I think is upstream that are on here.
Part of that is the perception here is that our water quality is getting a lot worse. And a lot of that's because we're not getting the flow from the Everglades that we did before. Now, I did notice yesterday it was running over the weir, but we're just not getting the flow through, so our water's a lot more stagnant. So it just looks worse. But as far as contaminants, it doesn't look to me like we're getting that, so.
And I did, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I had a question I thought maybe Dan would know. Do they control the water that comes through that? Because there are days that you drive by and there's no water coming over it, and then you go by an hour later and it's pouring over it.
So
They do.
Is that a tidal thing, or
told
do they
by
control it?
someone that they were releasing water yet, mid-state Florida has gotten a lot of water, and they're releasing it down through. So I don't know how long it takes to affect any of that. Maybe that made a difference, because I heard they were
So
dumping
say maybe
water.
they can give us a little more.
And they may shut their pump station, there's those 3 big pump stations, they may not keep up, so they have to let some go, yeah.
Because it
I don't know if we
doesn't
could
make
ask.
sense that
There's no
you go by in
canal.
1 hour, there's no water, and then you go back an hour later and it's a level you can't even see.
Could we have somebody from that
Oh, that's
organization
the
come and
tide
give us a
coming up
little
over the,
insight on
No,
that?
I thought maybe it was a transfer, but
no?
it seems like there's more water coming over, even though the tide is a little higher. There's a lot of water coming over.
One more thing about the sample results. Russ indicated wanting to sample for fuel in the water. That's not on there yet,
Yeah,
but it should be on the next set.
okay.
Oh, you could see fuel in the water.
Motion to accept
Lately?
the utility.
No, I mean, I don't see the point of,
I'll make a motion to accept
Yeah,
the
I see it.
report.
Second.
All in favor?
that's right.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Mitch, thanks for coming too.
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's good to see your face once in a while.
I know what you got to get what I
The
look
filters in
like.
the party.
I might have to take a quick run.
We keep trying, but we don't.
I'm gonna have this filter. I
Oh, yeah.
didn't dip my nose in there yet.
Check it out, yeah.
Yeah.
Swing by anytime.
I thought there was gonna be a party when that filter went in.
That takes us down to the manager's report. Item A today, statute requires the supervisor of elections to annually update the district on the number of registered voters. And so a copy of that certificate is part of the record of our meeting today. Believe it or not, there are 689 active and registered voters in the community, and that surprised me a little bit.
Me too.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's just informational. Item B today is the review and approval of the tentative budget. It's at the end of the packet of information behind the next tab there. I included all of the relevant utility rate analysis as part of the record of today's meeting, just to be able to tie back to what I believe is the consensus of the board to no longer subsidize the utility system with non-ad valorem assessments beginning next year on October the 1st. And so as a result of that, there will be a substantial decrease in the rate of assessment that appears on the tax bill, obviously, but that's going to be made up then by new base rates that are part of the bi-monthly utility bill. And we previously, the board engaged The state's preeminent rate analysis firm had a presentation, had 2 workshops. We will need to send a reminder in the probably the next 2 utility bill cycles that this is apt to change effective with the new fiscal year. Having said that, let me give you kind of the overview of the tentative budget as it sits right now. On the general fund side, the operating side, no increase in the non-ad valorem assessment is contemplated. The assessments will remain level at $878,355. Continue to project pretty strong interest earnings. Your year-to-date interest earnings are $77,000. Our forecast for the end of the year is $150,000. As a general rule, we put 3% in for certain commodity or service contract increases pertaining to landscape and also cost associated with our utility operations agreement. I'm not sure the last time they had an increase, but the tentative budget would include a modest 3% increase for that. There is an increase auditing and management fees. I had put 3% in. The chairman has suggested graciously that he'd like the board to consider a further increase to our base rate effective next year in recognition of what he considers to be some good work and the fact that you hired us at a lower cost than you paid your previous management company as we get ready to go into our second year. With that said, the total budget on the general fund side for next year is $983,855. I found one error from when we had first prepared this. As you know, when you acquired the commercial parcel across the road, we got stuck with paying the final year's tax bill. We have adjusted that going forward, so we will no longer pay the ad valorem taxes on that particular parcel. Those taxes this year were $26,000. We had a logic error that spilled over, and so I'll give you a copy of the revised budget. Next year there will be no property tax line item in the general fund budget as we go forward. No changes really overall on the expense side in the general fund. The ERU rate will remain the same as it has been at $777.23 per unit.
Can I say something on that while I'm thinking of it?
Yeah.
So, I got this on my own. I got together with Scott Preppin about this lawsuit that he's got going. And the 2 of us spent a half an hour on the phone, and he has made an offer to us about that. Should I tell what that offer was?
I'd like to say that, thought about what we're going to get into with that, and I think that should be in closed session because we're talking about the lawsuit.
Okay.
I think you need Zach here.
Okay.
That's fine. And so,
Because part of that may be changing the O&Ms.
I've actually got an item that I'll cover in just a minute.
Okay, I'll let you go then.
Because we've got a couple of issues on the methodology and also the current allocation and application of the rule to transfer utility ERCs. And there's a suggestion that we, for not only that, but issues associated with that piece of litigation and also potentially the default of parcel 13, that we retain co-counsel, get a second opinion, and I'll get to that in just a minute.
The other thing is, I forgot it, sorry.
I have a couple things when we do, are we going to do a workshop on this utility yet? Or are we Are you pushing this forward as
Well,
written?
no, this is important. I have to have your tentative budget to the county by June the 15th, and so that's why it's on today. It's a good question.
Because I see a couple of discrepancies yet that we talked about in meetings, but it's not reflected on the budget.
I need you to bring those up, and we'll make those adjustments as part of this item, because after today, I can't increase anything. I
After
can only-
today or before you submit it?
Well,
Because if we're gonna have this
if we're going to continue the
continuation
meeting,
meeting,
then as long as we do it next week so that I can get it to the county by the 15th of June, we'll be fine.
yeah.
All right.
If you want to tell me about them in advance, let me go ahead and give you the overview on the utility fund, and then if you get specific items.
Now, the other thing that I was thinking that I just forgot was, the last couple of nights, I've been up and going through the consultant that we hired, that Russ Weir, and I started looking at some of the O&M consulting projects he's done in other places. And the methodology that he went through on those, and I found one that, I can't think of the name of it, but very, very good. And so when we go to looking at this O&M thing, I mean,
So bring that with you when you go to look at it.
did I send you a copy of that?
You sent it yesterday.
Okay,
I
yeah.
haven't had a chance to look at it.
Yeah. But I've been spending a bunch of time looking at it, and we can do better. You know, we just haven't done it in depth enough yet.
Good point.
Moving on.
Okay.
With respect to the water and sewer fund, some of the things I would want you to see, obviously, the non-ad valorem special assessment revenue is gone. The $1,042,000 will be reflected in the proposed rates between water, wastewater, and irrigation utility that are above. And that was based off of the rate analysis for the year in question, the 2025 year. We're a little bit delayed from when he first engaged the study, which was almost a year ago. And the board at that time felt that we should not rush and that we needed to have a series of these workshops. And so we're imposing the rates as they were intended to be at that time. The total is $1,042,738, reflected through the elimination of the non-ad valorem assessment. The other thing that I wanted to mention in terms of that, there is another correction that I found and made on the next page, which is page 4. Top of the page, water and sewer fund assessment administration. Those were otherwise known as tax collector fees. And so at the top of page 4, the $30,000 that was there for the forecast for this year will not be necessary. If you're not going to charge a non-ad valorem assessment on the utility fund, there's no reason to pay the tax collector. So again, I've zeroed that out, and we'll make that adjustment in the contingency when you see the final budget, hopefully in July. So for the line item that says assessment administration, that includes primarily the tax collector fee, and so that next year will be zero. The difference will be reflected in the contingency fund on the final page. So the other thing that I put in there for capital outlay next year, I've got a placeholder right now. You know, some of the costs associated with the new disc filters and whatnot were delayed just due to supply chain issues. We made a host of other capital improvement projects at the plant, but I put a $250,000 number in there for next year in part to help pay for anything in furtherance to the raw water main or anything that I may not know about yet from Mitch's perspective. I've talked to them about if we're going to budget, the source of funds in that would then come from your capital reserve. But as I sit here right now and knowing that not everything may be finished by the end of September, I put $250,000 in the budget next year for capital improvements on the utility side.
Budget for wastewater, stormwater?
With that, then let's back up and Dan, if you get some certain suggestions in terms of either the operating account or the utility account, today is the day to reflect those.
I do, there's two of them in here. One is on the meter charge, so as Matt and Mitch were talking about, we have 2-inch meters over at the hotel for the efficiencies. The one building is the multi-story, there's I think 24 units in that building.
F building.
That building, okay. They have a 2-inch meter, it's tucked up right to the building. I believe that meter only serves that building, from what I can tell. And that would be one 2-inch meter serving 24 units. Right now on the table, we have a 2-inch meter with 8, the equivalent factor is 8.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference there.
There is, you actually mentioned this a couple of months ago, the reconciliation between the meters that we have inventoried and the standard is correct. A 2-inch meter would represent a base charge of 8.
It would in a commercial building, say we had a commercial building that ran a 2-inch meter because they use a lot of water for what they do.
Yeah.
That would be a 2-inch meter at 8 equivalent factors for a commercial building. But when we come to individual residential units, how can you give an efficiency, you know, they're gonna pay 1/3 of what everyone else is paying.
And presumably more water than a traditional hotel unit would use.
Well, they rent them out, their business, a lot of them, they rent them season and things like that, but it's still a unit. And if you just take the one 2-inch meter charge and say, okay, we're going to meter charges now for everyone else, and you keep the 2-inch meter charge and call it 8, they're paying
For the base rate?
They're gonna scream the deal. They're paying 1/3 of what everyone else pays to have meter and water hookup. Why would we do that?
You would. There may certainly be some one-offs. I mean, neither the staff nor your rate analysis consultant knew that there were that many units when the standard is 8 for a 2-inch meter. I think we have one 4-inch meter in the community that presumably also supplies the hotel, but I don't know that for a fact. I do have a schedule of all the meters and the total. There are probably only 1 or 2 situations similar to what you have mentioned.
There aren't many. There's, I did try to put together a little drawing of that.
Do you have a solution? Any suggestions?
Solution?
Do I have a solution? Yes, I do, actually. One I think
Give
is
us that.
fair. Okay, so we have, what I found was 3 meters over there that run the condos and stuff. And there's like 82 units or something. There's 80-something units over there. Right, so if you're gonna charge everyone else a charge of a meter charge to offset that, what we're taking off their taxes, then would you not turn around and have a meter charge for each one of those units? Because that's how we do the rest of the port. Everyone gets a meter charge. Doesn't matter if you're here 2 weeks. We have some friends that aren't here too often. We're trying to get them down here more, but they don't use very much. They're here 3 times a year maybe or something.
No,
right?
I hear you. If they're saving $1,000 on their tax bill, and everyone else in the community is going to see the $1,000 reflected over their annual utility bill, why would they get a gift?
Why would they get a gift?
Why wouldn't we just do a fraction,
I think that
because we didn't want, originally, the rules of procedure says everybody who uses water here has a meter.
Yeah.
But it's not practical. So we could do the same thing, and you go to that 1 meter and you say, how many is it serving?
24.
And then just do the math.
They get 24 meter charges. That way each unit gets a meter charge like everyone else.
Yeah, if you can help us or have Mitch tell us the actual accounts tied to those meters, then we will make note of that. And then before we get to October the 1st, we'll have to true up the ratio for certain 2-inch meters. Now, there may be other, let me just give you an example. At Orchid Cove, maybe those buildings have 2-inch meters, it might not, but
They all have their own meter, each unit has. their own
okay,
meter.
so they're individually metered. There may be other multifamily units here that have a 2-inch meter. There are not a lot of them. I'm going to say in the entire community, there are like 20 of them because I've seen the schedule and we've had it double checked. And I think there's one 4-inch meter. But we'll just need to make a note of that. And when we go to merge the new rates into the customer base, we'll have to true it up before October the
I
1st.
believe that bill, I don't know if anyone here has more experience with that, but I believe the bill goes to the HOA, and then at that point, their water usage is divided amongst the units.
I think it's a commercial condominium, but yeah, it's reflected through whatever the master bill is over there.
Now, that, for instance, that one you were just talking about, it's got 24 units in
Yeah.
it, their meter charge. Is that meter charge still then gonna be like at the percentage, like a condominium is at a 0.8? So that, you know what I'm getting at? So their meter charge would be 24 of them, but it would be times 0.8.
Whatever we're doing with the rest of the condos, we really didn't get to that part of the
Mhm,
ERC
figure that out.
thing, if we're gonna stay with that same structure, if we're gonna change that. we didn't really
Because
talk-
basically we're saying that condominiums don't use as much water as a residential house per se.
Wasn't using
Right, but when
based
you're,
on bathrooms?
when you're doing a gallon.
is.
When we go to gallons and meter charges, I don't know that there's a separation between houses and everything else, because everyone's gonna pay a meter charge, right? And then the gallons
Not
are,
a usage.
they're gonna be a meter charge and then a gallonage usage charge, and the usage charge is gonna go up a lot, right? Because we took all the non-ad valorem off that they used to pay up front. So the gallonage charge will go up, so anybody that's using more water is gonna get billed more. So if a
Right.
house is using more water, they're gonna get billed more.
Yeah, but
If a condo is using very little water, they won't pay much in a usage charge.
No, you're right. We really saw that this year too, the irrigation water.
Yeah.
And a lot of people spent a lot of money on irrigation water this year in spite of, but it's metered. And so
Right.
if you're watering, you get paid out the nose.
That takes us into the next part of this, page 17. We talked about the tier charges. So tier 1, if you're in a single-family house, it's 0 to 20,000 gallons, you get tier 1 prices. For a condo, it's 0 to 10,000 gallons. If we're gonna go to this and do meter charges for everyone and then charge by the gallon, that chart could just be one way or the other. You could make it all, I don't think there's a difference between condos and houses.
No.
Because if you're gonna charge by the gallon with a meter charge, why would you give one cheaper tiers than the other?
Yeah.
because it's based on bathrooms.
Based
Well,
on,
actually, what it's based on is usage, 300 gallons per ERC. Doesn't matter how you get to it, it's 300 gallons. Unless the engineer's doing the math, then he'll use how many bathrooms.
But it seems like those condos, those little bitty condos,
well, they're paying more on this, on a tier 1, but they'll never get to 10,000 gallons.
but if you charge them each condo for a meter charge, seems, I don't know, it seems high.
I agree with you. I
I'd bet
think
you about that.
But the condos, won't the condos be, they're at a 0.8, so if we don't change that table, we're getting into our workshop here.
Yeah, let's not do this, but
I don't know, let's get,
no, let's.
talking about it.
That's fine.
You don't want to do it?
I don't think we should do it.
Okay.
now, but there's something to be said about, a 300 square foot condo versus a 1,200 square foot condo.
I agree.
So,
Yeah, we
all right, I
gotta
just-
make that fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
We'll
right,
deal with
on to
that.
the next.
next-
We'll deal that at the workshop or next meeting.
But does it not cost us just as much to maintain and take care of a 300-foot condo as it does a 1,500 square foot condo? I mean, as far as the CID is concerned,
Well,
We have to supply the water hookup, we have to make sure that they have backflow preventers, we have to bill, we have to do all this stuff.
Are you proposing to give each little condo their own meter?
No, because that's what we're trying
and
to,
that's where the savings would be, because
that's what we're trying to steer around right now. That's where they're gonna save money, because we're not gonna require them to replumb, that would cost them a ton of money.
and not only that though,
Yeah,
but
you're
we're
not even
also not
charging
gonna
for
pay,
24 meters.
we're not gonna, yeah, we're gonna save ourselves 23 meters, because we only have one on there now, one backflow preventer.
I just don't think we
So
should
rather
do
than
this thing.
charging them all for a meter and a backflow preventer that they don't actually have, our costs are lower. So I think we need to look at that just to make sure that they're not
I
paying
think it needs to be up.
the sales. Yeah, I think we need to discuss it.
Okay. Anyway, I do think though that as we do this tier rating could be level across the board
agree with that.
rather than step.
Yeah, offhand, I don't know what the logic is. We'll have to defer to the utility rate consultant as to why there's a difference between the gallons associated with the tiers between 1 and 2.
Okay,
I don't know that anybody ever runs into that anyway.
I don't know.
But those are the two things, Dan, if you have anything further.
That's a 2 for the water part of it.
Okay. If it's still your intent to go to metered rates in lieu of a subsidy, we can have further workshops and board discussions and meetings between now and October. So if I understand, you've got some questions as it pertains to implementing the rates,
Details.
but you're still committed to eliminating the non-ad valorem assessment on October the 1st. So I'm okay, because we've got plenty of time to address the adjustments to the proposed metered rates going
And
forward.
there's one thing that Mr. McNamee talked about in length, was that we need to take all our ERCs from the water plant, 1,034, 32 that we have, and get those on like an Excel spreadsheet or something where we can see everyone here, what they have for ERCs,
Yeah,
what they're being charged.
We have spent staff has spent an enormous amount of time looking at old records and even general ledgers from
Not
years
finding
going
the area.
back. No.
The
And
records were bad.
so I have already talked to your new engineer, telling him that we need, to the extent that we can, we need to create, based off of the information that we have, how those ERCs have been assigned. Because, for example, and again, I'm just going to pick on Orchid Cove because we're here, and these vacant parcels that are here, if the original developer or his successor paid ERCs on pads in anticipation that they were going to be built, there's got to be a way for us to track that. And we can't find in the records that we have that anybody has kept up with that. Specifically as it pertains to the marina and the condominiumization of the marina. If you can tell me corporate entity, then we will spend time additionally that made the improvements to the marina to increase the number of liveaboards and whatnot. The time frame on that again was 2018, 19. If you can identify for me who the utility customer or the corporate entity that undertook that, or the name of the condominium, we'll continue to pour over the general ledgers from those years to see whether or not they paid the increase that they proposed. They came in, they made a big presentation to the board. The board authorized the enhancements to the condominium marina slips, received a letter of capacity. But I have not yet found that there was a payment made for the capacity that was allocated to the improvements.
The thing of it is, we may have to just say, that's the past and this is the future, because like you said, we cannot come up with the records. It's going to be so hard to recreate this. And one of the things that jumps out at me is when we first came in here and we found out that the gun club was being assessed at 2 ERCs, we didn't think that was fair, and we jumped it up to 8. But at that time, we didn't ask the gun club to buy an additional 6 ERCs. So, all those, it's been done like that over the years. And that's why this stuff is also, 2 acres over here is different than 2 acres over there, or 2 acres over there. It's just been mixed and matched, and I don't know if we can make it, I think at some point we're just gonna have to say, you know what, this is what it's gonna be from now on, because I don't know that we can recreate it.
I agree.
We may have to jump in at some point, and then there'll be a few discrepancies we'll discover, just like we have a couple with O&Ms. When we jumped in last year, we have a couple we see this year now that we got to change a little bit. I'm sure that's going to happen, because this is really in-depth stuff that takes a lot of work to try to figure out.
And that's why I would like to see the HOAs have a representative when we're doing this stuff, so that you will be informed and you'll have input. We really need that.
Any other questions of a general nature concerning, I mean, there's no big changes to the budget aside from this one revenue change on the utility fund that is there. Otherwise, the costs are essentially little change from the current or recent years.
Does anybody on the board here think that we're gonna have an issue with making this happen by this time frame?
No,
We're gonna get it through?
let's do it.
Okay.
I think at this point, we thought we nailed down the O&Ms, and then we see this year there's a couple discrepancies we got to fix. I think we're going to have the same thing with the ERCs. We're going to do our best to pick up all these little details and all these little quirks in the system, the way it's built, and I'm sure we'll miss a couple. Sure. And all we can do is come back
Do the best you
later
can
and say,
do.
you know what, we missed these two, but we're going to make them right. We got to pick these up.
There again, we're gonna make mistakes, people. If we make a mistake, it's not gonna be personal. If we make a mistake, we bring it to our attention and we correct it.
With that, then the appropriate motion would be to approve the tentative budget and to set, and my suggestion is the July meeting, the 18th, for the adoption of the budget at a public hearing.
Can we wait to do that can we do that before we close this meeting out next week? Or do you need that today?
I don't need it today. I don't know what's have to change between now and.
Why not do it now?
Okay, that's fine. Motion to accept that then?
And then here's my question. You may recall I think it was the first year we got here, which would be 2 Augusts ago. We literally, we postponed or continued, we adopted the budget on the final day, and it was causing me to have heart palpitations. So this year I had moved the public hearing up to July. We'd still do it in August, but we would do it at the regular meeting. My preference would be to do it in July.
Yeah.
And then that way, as we've got all these other little issues with rate things, we've still got, the next 2 months to be able to iron those things out before we get to October the 1st. So the public hearing then would be July 18th as part of your regular meeting, but the public hearing will be at 9:30. So is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, Russ, did you ever come online? Just not.
The next 3 items are all just informational updates. We have arranged to have the sheriff's speed trailer delivered here. It was parked in the median of US 41 on my way down here this morning. It has been on a temporary assignment, but we, through the district road patrol office, will have it delivered here next. So we're next on the list for the speed trailer. Do you have one or the other, or do you want it on both of your main thoroughfares?
I don't know, anybody out there got something to say?
Well, Kay's Drive for sure, because I know the vehicles go down Kay's Drive really fast.
That's where we'll start.
I'm unaware of what goes over on the other
Yeah, I
side,
don't
but I
know.
would assume that they would want the same treatment.
Yeah.
You think?
Do they speed over on yours?
Newport's wicked.
Yeah?
Okay, well, we
Okay.
gotta do it in Newport as well. How Orchid Cove. Orchid Cove have any problem with speeders? Okay, don't need it over there.
Those are the two priorities, and we'll try and have it and schedule it for 2 weeks on each of those two streets.
Okay.
And thank our staff for helping coordinate that. The mosquito control flyer was authorized for the opt-in, opt-out residential home that'll be in the next bill. I don't know when your next bill will be. Do y'all know offhand?
I think we just got one.
It was in there.
Was it already in there?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is a process for people who are hypersensitive, or have suppressed immune, whatever, that they can opt out if they don't want the mosquito control district. There is a procedure for that. There's multiple ways to contact them that were part of that flyer, but that was addressed at last month's, and we worked with them to make that happen.
I've seen a couple, or 3 pickups here one day for mosquito control. Do you know if they've done any applications yet?
They've been putting out traps. In fact, Kevin.
But no applications because mosquitoes are already getting stupid.
Okay, we will pass that along. I will tell you that they are sensitive to email complaints. They
Yeah.
track that kind of thing. And so the extent to which you would take the time as a community to contact them via email or phone to say, hey, Port of the Islands, they're bad. That's part of their logic in scheduling. And so
Okay.
that, and they monitor these traps. Their main trap, I think, is at the utility plant.
It's right behind the utility plant.
Yeah, I was telling a joke the other day. I said, maybe we should start trapping our own
Catch them
mosquitoes
up, you
and
go dump them in there, yeah.
get more treatments.
I was wondering, I know that we can't treat within 30 feet of the water, so for a lot of our condos, these Delmaris, we're too close to the water.
Yeah, the young female who's the number 2 person there who was here last month said those areas will not be
So
sprayed.
my question is, can they spray the front of the building?
I understood her to say that they would, but we can confirm that. I'll make a note.
Not
Yeah,
the
she
back,
did say-
it's too close, but in the front.
Yeah,
everything's got
the
the
fronts may be
She
150
said she'd spray
feet
the
from the
front.
canal.
Pardon me?
She did say she's sprayed.
Just the front?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I just
Is there
want
any-
to know when,
Yeah.
because I'm
Just
getting
get
eaten
the front
alive.
spray, because they can't spray the
So
back.
we'll find.
Well, there's nothing saying that the residents can't spray the back if they want to, right? I know they're not gonna get paid for it, but
I do.
I know I'd do it.
All right, so anyone that lives too close to the water, they do Stella Cells, Stella North,
Well, they have other stuff.
some of the condos over at you guys.
Kathy Oswald, Newport Drive. I have a question, and that is, when mosquito control sprays uses this special spray, I know when we have normal mosquito spraying, I've used, at least once a month, I use 3 cans of backyard mosquito control spray for my bushes in front of my condo, in between my garage, bank, and my building. Are they going to spray those bushes too, or just, because it doesn't really help?
I would think
Condos
if you
on Newport.
opted, that's what I was asking, if you opt in,
Well, I opted in, but I'm just
So-
wondering if they actually come in
It said
and
they did.
spray, or do they just
it's
spray out?
backpack spray.
They
Okay.
have employees with large backpack sprayers
Okay.
that do all of that.
You may want to send them an email and ask them that question as well,
Yeah,
and give them
okay.
some input.
Yeah.
Tell all
Because I
your
mean, I use
condo-
3, during the summer, I use
understand.
3 cans of backyard spray.
So tell all your condo owners that they have to opt in, even though they're on the water and they can't spray behind, they likely can spray the front of the building if they opt in.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna tell ours.
The final thing that I had a chance to speak to your civil engineer about evaluating the roadway striping on the bridge that crosses the back of Union Canal. And he asked me to clarify, and I said, well, while the bridge has 2 clear lanes, one of them has diagonal striping to keep the cars on the inside lane until they get to the other side of the bridge where there is a striped decel and right-in only movement. I said, the question, I believe, is the way that it is striped appropriate, or could we consider some sort of delineators, these floppy posts, to keep people from drifting into the area before they get to the decel lane? But Dan, you brought this up last month. I want to make sure I'm relaying the information correctly.
Yeah, it becomes a racetrack, so when they come into the port from the north, as you come in, you get the lane that you can turn off into Newport and whatever. All right, that becomes, because they got a dotted line there or whatever, it becomes a passing zone.
Yeah,
So everybody lines up, and when they come in, they pull out into that lane, and they pass through the exit and egress and entrance routes, right? So they try to pass, and then they take 2-3 cars sometimes, and they try to get in before the merge on the bridge. And if you're riding a bike or walking across the bridge, it's dangerous.
There's not enough room there to be passing.
They're going 80 miles an hour to try to get around the cars and get back in by the bridge.
okay. So the primary concern, they're exiting cars that are going south or right on the trail, and either racing to move to the left to go through, or they're going through the diagonally striped,
Yeah,
Right.
and using it as though it
It's
were
a
a
passing
lane.
lane.
A passing lane.
And again, they're going through, but they're using that in order to help pass other cars and whatnot.
Correct.
and unfortunately, what that does is brings the speeds up.
Way up.
Yeah. Okay, I think I've explained it to him properly. He had been on vacation for 2 weeks. He got back in the office on Wednesday, and so I spoke to him Wednesday, and then I sent him a follow-up email. We'll have a sketch and his suggestions when I see you guys at your June meeting.
If we want
I
to
don't know.
protect our bikers, I think we need to put some kind of bollard at the beginning of each side of that bridge.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of funny, because the bike lane, when the lane goes over into straight traffic, the bike lane moves out.
Yeah,
That's
And
crazy.
by design.
it goes right alongside that lane that they're
Yeah,
flying
using
through,
to come
right?
up the inside. Okay,
Yeah, I never ride the bike lane, and when you cross on the bridge, you always cross right as close as you can to the rail, because you don't want to get involved in that.
so the question
I think
is,
they need a bollard there to keep people from,
yeah,
Getting anywhere-
is it properly striped, or are there further enhancements like these floppy bollards that could be applied
I would put a cement.
to make it safer, not only for vehicular but bicycle traffic?
Seriously.
What do you think
I mean,
about
replacing them once a
speed?
day.
As you go southeast out of past 40 Islands here, you get down on 41, and there the traffic slows to 45 through any town.
Yeah.
Does anyone think going down to 45 would help, rather than staying highway speeds right through the port?
I think that's the
I
only
actually put
solution,
it-
is decreasing the speed
At
limit.
one time, it was 45
ways.
coming through there.
And another flashing yellow light north of POI.
Yeah.
I'll ask Jared to coordinate the speed issue separately with FDOT, because they're going to have standards, but given the amount of cross-street traffic, the volume coming from the community onto 41, you may be eligible to take it down to 45.
I thought it was, I thought it used
Is
to
it
be.
all clearly posted 55 now?
I don't know if that's even posted.
I don't think it's posted.
No, it's 60.
I think it's 60.
It dropped down.
Okay, all right. I just wanted you to know we followed up on your request. and-
Thank you.
And we will continue to do so. The final thing that I have today are your financial statements. These are meaningful because they're mid-year or through the end of March. Just quickly, the district had a combined 4 million, I'm sorry, actually had $5,300,000 in cash on hand at the end of the month at mid-year, $3,838,000 in the general fund, $1,433,000 in the utility fund. Additionally, you had another $8 million in fixed assets, net of depreciation. So combined assets on hand at mid-year, $13.2 million. There were $82,891 in payables that were outstanding. Next page on the income statement, you can see that $13,000 was received in interest earnings. For the month, that's about $1,000 more than the original budget forecast. Additionally, there were $9,000 in assessments that were paid just prior to them becoming delinquent. We'll see some evidence of that in April. Year-to-date assessment revenue is 80%, a little bit less than I would like, but you've had some chronic slow payers or payers here historically whose certificates go to a tax sale.
From my I heard that that bill's been paid, do you know
I
that?
I
I
just
was
met,
going to just say,
I just met with
just as
Tom, and that day he said he paid $800,000 and brought it all up to even.
there was one, there is the parking lot that is on the west side of the gatehouse coming in that is also owned by the hotel. I just randomly checked a lot of those. That one had not been paid through the end of April. Whether or not it was redeemed and paid, before we get into the current month, I don't know. But that one is less
This
important
just,
than
he
the other.
just paid those a couple days ago.
Yeah, so we're going to see a good revenue for both April and May. And then following the auction that will be, I think, in a week, any other certificates that are outstanding are going to be purchased by investors at that
And it
time.
sounds to me like these tax certificates, the interest rates on them went way up. So I don't think we're gonna see this kind of thing going on much. That was a business decision before you could not pay your taxes, and the interest rate you were paying on it was less than the bank. So it was a financial game. But sounds like that game may be over.
On
On
the
the financials, as long as we can cover it now or later on old business, but Kevin, you want to talk on the grants? We got, the good thing about FEMA is that they were stagnant for a while, and now we got a whopping 12,000?
75.
7,000, yeah, it was 12, but then we had the deduction. Okay, so we have a whopping 7,000 coming in from the grants. But the good thing about it is it means that FEMA's starting to catch up on some of those old grant requests and pay them off. So our big grant requests are moving ahead, still at a snail's pace, but we're still moving.
It sounds proud, right?
Yeah, we have some progress. We're going to bid on the new pipeline for contractor bid, which is a step in the right direction. So we know the wellheads, it looks like the wellheads will be funded at some point. So raising the wellheads and rewiring all that, the electrical boxes and all that, so we don't have damage from flood again, looks like that's gonna move ahead. Our trailers, our generator trailers, we have 2 of those that help out during storms, so we can plug in pump stations and different things to keep the sewers working even with a power outage. Those 2 are moving ahead. We told them that we'd really like to get those purchased by hurricane time. They don't seem to care too much about that, but we're trying. It looks like they'll come, but it's a matter of getting them to do it. The one in question is we have the pipeline in 2 different grant proposals. The first one is 100% reimbursement. And that one, they're fighting us a little bit on it. We're gonna move ahead with a couple angles to try to get that done. If it doesn't, we have a backup grant that's 75%. So that one's actually moving ahead. So it looks like we can land the 75% grant, and we might try to do some tricky grant stacking if we can.
Our consultant's given us a lot of good advice.
Yeah, so we got some things going on, but it's moving ahead. I hope that sooner or later here, we can come in and say that all the work out there for about $3 million is funded.
Great.
Thank you guys for all that work you're doing on it. I know you're spending a lot of time on it.
Are the plans that are being prepared by Johnson Engineering, will they be of sufficient detail that we could conceivably award a bid? Is that what FEMA is looking for us to do, is have something that is truly shovel-ready and a hard bid?
One of the sticklers that may kick us loose in FEMA for the grant is that they can't contest bids. They can't go and get their own bids because they hold the purse strings, and that would be conflict. So they can't do that. So the one thing that would really stand ground, because they seem to be arguing with everything we turn in, is if we go to bid and we have contractor bid pricing, then they can't contest that.
Okay.
So that's our goal right now. That's one of the avenues we're going down is Jared's got the drawings to the point that we can go to contractor bidding.
Okay.
Great.
I think that's really good news, and whatever we need to do on Jared's side to make sure that we can award a contract, that doesn't put a lot of risk on us for change orders if they come back and say, oh, well, that we need a blow-off valve here or something, and there, I just want to make sure that there's either a contingent item or an allowance for that kind of thing based on the plans that we have.
Yeah, Jared's taking care of that, I don't know.
Okay.
Just know that Kevin puts in a lot of time, taking care of this, so.
We both do. Thank you.
Dan, if you're finished with that, and the only other thing I wanted to just advise you of on the expense side, we are over budget in our administrative cost center for engineering services year to date, in recognition that we're chasing a lot of grants. We've been dealing with a lot of, rear yard drainage issues and whatnot. Some of that will level out, I think, over the second half of the year, but currently we're about $21,000 year to date over budget for engineering. I've already told you we did not budget the property tax bill for the commercial parcel. Additionally, we've had some modest increases in our website and also our projection services that were not part of the original budget, where we're zooming and paying, on a monthly basis for that.
Can I interrupt quick?
Yeah,
The website thing, they're gonna charge us more for what they're doing now?
no,
Oh.
no, but I'm saying that we didn't budget specifically for our Zoom, and they're being charged against this other contractual service line item.
Okay.
Here's what I wanted to say. Year to date, we're $70,000 over budget in our administrative cost center. Overall, though, we're $250,000 under budget. And so I'm not in any way alarmed by that.
I'm disappointed with not being able to get these agenda packets online 7 days in advance. Every month I call Kevin and ask him why she's putting 2 pages on there. We go through this every month. I don't want to keep doing that.
Okay, that was never clear to me. If you want all of the backup to be uploaded, we can make that happen, because as you know, our internal goal is to scan them and send the digital versions to you the Friday before the meeting. And
What do you guys think? Do you think that we still should be putting an agenda packet on them there so that anybody in here has a week to look at this stuff in advance and have
Let me
questions?
just tell you what the practical concern is. As I did today, when I come to the meeting the following week and I give you a copy of a letter from Mr. Truxton, or the county, the district attorney is passing out different documents and that kind of thing, there will be some blowback on that, saying, well, why was this not?
Sure.
And
But you can only still do what you can do.
You can only do what you can do, but there will be people who are inclined to complain. They're going to complain that they didn't see whatever we're passing out before the start of the meeting.
Well, I just have a feeling that a person like Deb Jansen there would really like to read that before she comes to this meeting. Am I wrong?
I'm
picking on you, Deb.
I'm not opposed
I'm
to
not
that.
picking on her. I'm just saying
I don't
she's
have any
interested.
clients that do that, but I'm not opposed to it. I would rather you see it first than me upload it simultaneously. So like, if you get your copy on a Friday and I upload it on the website the following Monday, would that be okay?
What do you guys think?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. With that, then, I'm done. Again, the suggestion is that anything pertaining to the attorney's report today on any of the matters we discussed, either the ERC transfer policy, the issues pertaining to the default of Mr. Case, or other matters related to any of the other things that Zach may have been tracking. The one thing I have discussed with the chairman is he was interested in us obtaining co-counsel to give a second opinion in an abundance of caution for matters related to the default on the part of Mr. Case or the existing policy as it relates to the ERC transfer. I've talked to Zach about that. They're not opposed. He and I have suggested 2 names that do not have conflict of interest. One is Clay Brooker, who's with the Coleman law firm, Cheffy Pasadomo law firm, not Coleman, downtown. He's got good local government experience. The other one is attorney Mark Muller. And we will reach out to them and hopefully get a proposal or a draft engagement letter for your meeting next week if you'd like to avail yourselves of a second opinion.
I'd like to
I
do
do,
that.
yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'll come
Did
to
you
the
ever hear
meeting.
back from that other guy?
I'm sorry,
That other guy that was gonna get back to you in 2 weeks, did you ever hear from him?
that's next week is the end of his 2 weeks.
Okay.
So his name is not important for now. There was another one that we talked about, Leo, but I think that between the two we mentioned, hopefully we'll come to the meeting next Thursday or Friday and have an engagement letter for you to look at.
Can you find out from Tony how long that Zach may be in the hospital? And if he's gonna be in there for more than a day, I think we should send flowers.
Yeah, we'll work on that today. I don't know how Zach is.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just here, I'm just monitoring on behalf of Zach. I'll keep you and Neil posted when I find out more information. I appreciate that. And Neil, if the board can have the meeting next Thursday, because that's the end of the 30-day period in the Lindsay case matter to respond. Otherwise, that's what we would request.
Okay, I'm only available Thursday and Friday next week, and so that would work for me, and otherwise board members can call in.
Yeah, if you hear he's gonna be in there for very long, let's send him some flowers.
I'll find that out.
I will sure do that. I'll notify you, Mr. McNamee, and also Neil.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank
Need a
you.
motion to accept the financials?
Yes, I make the motion to accept the financials.
Good. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. There's nothing further on the engineer's report.
Yes, there is. I have something, right?
Yeah, I was going to say we're down to new business and supervisor
Well,
requests.
under engineering, I've asked Jared for a map of all of our easements and drainage, so I understand he's working on that. And I'm hoping to have it this week, or well, next week.
I'll speak to him.
So, but as far as the budget goes, I think you should put in an extra $50,000 for that, because he may be working on things. We do have additional regulations on retention ponds and drainage coming down the pike, and there may be things that we have to adjust.
I've sent that information again to him, and I think Steve had sent me a copy. I got the same as sort of a solicitation.
Yeah.
Typically, the state's fiscal year for new regulations or laws is July the 1st. And so I've asked them, is there something, or are there additional things that we need to do from a reporting or inspection as it pertains to stormwater? Or is this going to be one of these things to where the statute goes into effect, but
You have
then
a year or
their
two.
DEP is going to have to prepare updates to the Florida Administrative Code with all the little details, and that, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll know it next week.
Yeah, normally they put out the reg, you have a certain period of time for comments, and then you'll have another certain period of time to come up to speed with the reg, so. But I'd like to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
I would like to see it, if we couldn't get it
we're working on that.
to the point that next fall, when we go into the dry season again, we couldn't start working on these, the drainage in the entire place.
Well, the reason that I asked Jared for these maps is so that we can work on the problem areas now. So,
Well, I believe they're engaged. When I get to the final quarter of the fiscal year, I'm going to bring a budget amendment to you to account for some of these increased costs for property taxes and engineering fees and the like. And so that's part of our work plan when we get to the final quarter of the year.
yeah.
Anything else?
Are we on old business?
Yes.
I had none. We're under new business or other supervisor requests.
Okay. Go.
Under old business, we talked about the billing, delinquent billing for the island's water and sewer bills. And you had cleaned that up quite a bit.
Yeah,
The only question I have about that is we talked a couple different times about putting something into the bylaws, call it or whatever, that would say a property cannot transfer, right? There's no transferring from a owner to a renter, or a renter to an owner, or an owner to a new owner. There would be no transfers of utility billing, no new addresses, no transfers, unless they're current. Anyone that isn't current cannot request a transfer. You know, we have some hammers, let's call it, that would stop us from having to chase these people down And I think that's a big one, and I know we talked about it, but I want to know if that's making it into the bylaws, that that's something we do, because that would cut chasing these utility bills. I know I had units, I had rentals for a while. When a renter comes in, I transfer it into their name, and when they leave it, if I don't have another renter to transfer it right into, it comes to my name until I get it rented or whatever, right? But that's how the utility bills go. If we put that rule in there that says nothing transfers unless they're current, there's no money to chase. Because if they're not current, we're gonna shut their water off. And the only way they can transfer if they're current. If they want their renter and they're gonna pay their bill. If they want to change owners, they're gonna pay their bill. I think it's just a simple way to do all the collections with a strike of the pen.
2 points. We currently get a stop request at our office when property is changing hands, and so we are disclosing that in advance of resales currently. The receivables, the last time I checked, we were down to like $8,000, and $6,000 of that was for a unit where mom and dad retired, moved to Port of the Island, subsequently went to assisted living or died. The bill got up to $6,000. The service was shut off before our arrival and has not been reactivated. But it is still 80% of your receivables for active accounts are tied up in that one particular home. It may be Orchid Cove, I don't recall. We've done a really good job cleaning up the receivables.
Yeah.
There.
Good job.
When I bring back the new rates for you to adopt, they are currently part of your administrative rules of procedure. So we're going to have to amend the rules of procedure. I've got to run ads 28 days in advance of the hearing to do that. And we'll clean this up at the same time that I ask you to formally adopt the new rate structure.
Perfect. I just think that, I don't care where it is, there's people that aren't paying their bills, and if you have an easy way to clean that up,
The other thing I would ask you to think about, not that we're looking for more work, because we're not. Currently, new owners are not required to have a deposit on file. We only charge deposits for renters. And so, if you tried that with FPL or with Collier County or anybody else, they'd be like, no, you need to have a deposit on file. It creates accounting work on our part. But going forward, that might be the only other thing that I would ask you to consider as to whether or not all new owners should be charged a deposit.
What size are you talking? What size?
$500.
500.
Do you think that's necessary?
It never has been here. I will tell you that we do track deposits for renters as a condition of their making application for a new account. I'm just saying, think about it, and because there's never been a requirement here for deposits on owners.
If we put the other language in that says nothing can transfer without having an account current, that would make the owner, if a renter leaves and didn't pay their bill.
Yeah.
If the owner doesn't want to get shut off, all right, they can't transfer out of that renter's name. They can't do anything with their unit really to a new renter or to themselves.
Yeah.
Until that's current, and if they don't get current, we're gonna shut the water off.
I presume that most of your renters here are seasonal. And I don't know that you have a lot of annual renters here, but maybe you do. But I think that if we have a provision in there that delinquent accounts cannot be transferred until the accounts are current, that'll fix that.
I think if we do what Dan's asking, I don't think we need the deposits, and I think that the darn deposits, it's, people leave and they can't get their deposit back, it's just a whole
Or
nother
the final
bucket of
bill
worms.
ends up being more than the deposit, and
Yes.
they're still gone, and then I'm trying to,
I think
debit
it's a lot
the,
more accounting for you.
Let's just not do it if we don't have to.
okay.
The hard monies we had to collect were the ones where the people moved and they owed money, or the renters took off and didn't pay the money. And if we don't allow that account to transfer, you're gonna get paid, because somebody's gonna wanna turn the water back on, Or transfer the name brand account.
I think we got that taken care of.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
1,000,
Yeah.
customers here, I've got one where mom and dad are deceased and
Yeah.
it's tied up in an estate matter now, and yeah, that's
More than
not.
likely, it'll get paid at some point.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna wanna put water back in there at some point.
Any other new business?
I had somebody approach me, a resident here, who's interested in buying, that 3-acre parcel that we just bought over there on Stella Maris North. I told him that he needed to come up with a proposal of what he'd like to put on that property. What I told him is if it's something that the residents would be behind, and we thought it would be advantageous to the community, we'd definitely look at reselling that property. So we'll wait until we hear from them. I told him I wouldn't give out his name, so I'll do that. One other thing that I have, actually the last couple of weeks, I've been going through our rules of procedures, line by line, comparing them to the 2018, which was the rules of procedures in the past. So I'm getting very fluent at what's in our rules of procedures. Not necessarily looking for changes as much as I'm just looking at learning out what they actually are. But then I also have been going back and looking at minutes of past meetings. And one of the things I'm coming up with is the previous board, when we took over the street in Stella Maris North, they wanted us to take over their drainage as well. The board at that time indicated that they were in favor of doing that, but it never happened.
Okay.
I would like us to look into taking over Stella Maris North's drainage, as well as there's one other street over on the other side, Sunrise K, I believe it is. It's the one that has the big retention pond in the middle of it. They are required to take care of their own streets and sewer or drainage there. They would be the only other street in here that isn't being taken care of, that's really a street. The other 3 along there are all being taken care of by us. I think we should take those over, to be fair, because we're telling everybody we want the same on O&Ms and everything else. Well, then let's give them the same services.
What's the name of the condominium that is across the road and west of the Marina and Ship Store? This multifamily community over there.
Do you know which one I'm talking about, Deb?
The one you're talking about that has the swale in the middle is Evening Star Cave.
Evening Star K.
I'm just saying, are there any other condominium or multifamily projects that have a private road or drive, and they are currently, I'd want to know.
Well, there's some on the west side over there,
Yeah.
but they're like black topped and they're more for their parking than they're not really a through street that I'm aware of.
I think
Open
once,
swales, or are there catch basins and culverts and?
All of that stuff's in the, well,
I think we should wait till we get the information from Jared and then look at making everything whole.
Yeah, I'm just
It
saying.
makes
I
more
think
sense that way because,
Consistent.
yeah, and also, once we know what we have in the drawings, it may be easy for us to connect to Stella Maris North, because I think their pond runs in, or our pond runs into their pond, I think. So we have some corrections to do there, and as far as Evening Star, and there may be other areas. I know there's an
And
area
I think
on
that we
the
would want to
turn.
have them inspected.
yes.
Making sure that they were built in accordance with their approved construction plans
Right.
as part of anything.
I don't think that we need to go into full-blown engineering things, to make this complicated.
Well, let's get our first step being this, the exhibits to
Right.
compile all of the drainage and utility easements here and see where we could get some deficiencies, and then, take it a
Then
bite at a
expand it
time.
from there.
Just so you know, though, that's the direction we're headed. We're gonna get this all squared away.
Anything further?
I have a comment.
Hang on one second. Any other board, new business? Final public comment?
No, what about supervisor requests?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. New
Okay.
business.
Just 1 minute.
Hang on, go ahead, one more step.
Yes, there was an incident over in Stella Maris South where a garbage truck lost a lot of hydraulic fluid and it's eaten up the pavement. And in their board meeting, they thought that somebody in the CID was taking care of it. I said, I've never heard of anything, so I was just wanting to
That's not
follow
even
up
our
on
road.
that.
That's not even our road.
If a garbage truck has a leak, you need to call garbage company and they'll send somebody out right away because
Well, they
that's.
did come out right away and did the best they could, but the
Well, then
pavement still looks terrible.
Yeah, if you
It does.
contact them, they'll take care of it.
Yeah, their franchise is governed by a franchise agreement and a
Right.
county-wide ordinance, and they have an obligation to address, blown hydraulic lines and things of that nature.
And they take it very seriously.
It happens every day. They have contractors who spray enzymes and stuff, but if they've got some permanent pavement damage, then that needs to be recorded at the county level. And the county utility department, they oversee that franchise agreement.
The same thing happened over there where they're building that new house on Kay's Drive. One of their outfits lost oil. Now, I don't know who the heck it was, but there's the same thing over there.
Yeah, well, what surprised me is they thought that the CID was taking care of it, and I was like, well, I haven't heard anything about it, so I wonder if somebody else did.
No.
Okay.
I don't know if Stella Maris North, or I mean South, even owns their own street yet. Because
I don't think they turned it over.
They what?
I don't think they turned it over yet.
Yeah, I don't think they even own it. So,
They own it.
Huh?
Still cell phone.
They own it now.
They
I
don't
don't
got the
believe
paperwork,
they turned it over.
To us? No, we don't own it.
No, we don't. No.
but did they get the
The
paperwork?
original builder?
Stella Cell still owns that street as far as I know. They were going to turn it over. They came to the meetings a while back and said they were going to turn it over to us, but they never did.
But they
Previous to that, they didn't own it. It was the original builder whose name was still on that street. Stella Maris South didn't have the ownership of that then. I don't know if they ever got that taken care of.
So if they didn't do that, we can't take
So,
it.
yeah,
It's not ours.
Well, if it's not theirs, they can't give it away.
Well, what they have to do,
They have
on
to
a
change
whole,
it.
on a whole different issue, we had to deal with that with our Botox. We had to go back to the builder and get some things taken care of. And it was a process, but we got it done, right? Through some quitclaim deeds and some different
Right,
things.
that's what they have to do.
They have that information. I just don't know if they went after it to try to get that straightened out.
However,
the records that I've looked at still shows it as being the other company, but that doesn't mean the records are current either.
Right.
Any other supervisor requests?
One, as long as we're talking about the streets, how would we handle a private spiller, private party that had some issues and has disrupted the surface of the blacktop? And that's on one of our streets.
I don't know how you handle that. How do you guys do it in other communities?
We've had some instances where, after new paving, at Pelican Marsh every year, we mill and repave a section of road, and we've had some damage to fresh asphalt before it had time to cure. Typically, we have worked with our contractor. They can come in and even heat that stuff up with torches and re-roll it and address that kind of thing. What kind of damage has
It's
occurred?
just some, one spot about this big around, there's actually a couple of them, but one is bad, it's all crumbling from fuel spill.
Yeah, I have a separate annual contract with Vaness, a local paving for small asphalt repairs like that. Jason Dean is their account rep.
Would you try to go back to their homeowners insurance then to try to cover that, or?
Was it equipment damage or?
It's a
Somebody's
problem.
guessing.
It's an old truck that leaks and had a fuel spill, actually had a couple of
You
them.
parking it in the right of way
Yes.
overnight?
Along the road, yes.
We've had that issue in our condo association in town. I'll ask them how they dealt with it.
I don't know, I think when we get it fixed and then send the bill, and the bill goes to the owner, because this is a renter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let me have our contractor look at it first to give us a proposal for what it would take either to saw it out and put a properly, square
They could
patch
maybe
in.
mill it, because so far, well, it's only down maybe this far where it's curved.
Okay.
But it's not gonna stop by the looks of it, because
I have other clients that within their administrative rules will not allow overnight parking beyond 11 PM. And so if that's a separate issue, then I think going forward, we need to do that. Otherwise,
well, our parking issues in Port of the Islands in general, there's areas that just don't have places to park, and they park in the street. They always
Understand.
have, and I don't know where they're gonna go if they don't.
but if we have damage that we can tie to a particular vehicle and pursue a claim, even if it required threatened small claims kind of action. I would say let's start first to have it evaluated to see what the repair would cost us. What are we talking about?
I don't think it's a whole lot, but it's not gonna get any better the way it looks.
Okay.
I also would like to start looking at resurfacing roads in here. I know I talked about this a while back, about like starting over on Newport Drive, but we should start getting this into a schedule where we do the resurfacing or we fix a road.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't just talk about it, we should actually get a plan.
Again, I would typically have Jared do an inventory or a survey of pavement condition to give us kind of a list of the worst
Okay.
areas. And then,
He can work with Russ Kish on that.
yeah, and then in anticipation of that, local governments are eligible through the state to borrow money through the local government finance plan, and the current rates are like 3.9%. And so even if we wanted to incur some debt and, begin to chip away on some repaving things, and manage that through our existing, budget structure that we have. I'm not talking about floating big bond issue or anything like that, but I would start with a survey of pavement conditions so that we have some way of justifying the priority of
This takes a long time, so we should really get started on that.
I agree.
And if we can borrow money cheaper than what we've got our cash in reserves,
I think you can.
might as well borrow it.
I agree. Okay, we'll Kevin, if you'll just make a note to have Jason send one of their techs out here to a little inventory of pavement conditions.
Thank
Did the
you.
north side of the community exist here before the south side?
They did start over there earlier, yes. The Hayes Drive got developed quite a bit later.
Did the north hotel precede the south hotel?
Way earlier, yeah.
Okay, all right.
One quick thing I'd like to say, Neil, when you went through the budget, you had said that we didn't have an increase scheduled for the next year's budget. So we didn't build in an increase.
I said that I looked at the 5-year CIP and I compared that against work that I know is underway and under contract with Florida Utility Systems.
Right.
And I put a placeholder in next year's budget of 250. If we have costs beyond that, we can deal with that at the final budget hearing or by budget amendment once we have that work done.
I'm talking about the water increases, rate increases, tax increases, things
Yep.
like that. We're not doing any increase on next year's budget.
No.
Okay, so that's what I wanted people to understand, is that because of the way things are working out, and I know everyone was worried about that when our consultant said that we'd have to start right away with a 5% increase to try to get caught up with the CIP, and that we figured as a board and managers here that we don't need the rate increase. We're doing fine the way we are, and if we land any grant monies that amount to anything, that'll even make it better. So just so you know that it is working, and everyone says we got a lot of money. We do have some money saved up, and that's a wonderful thing for a community. And we don't have to increase rates again next year, even though the consultant recommended 5%. So,
he had suggested some bonded indebtedness, but to me, I think that's like 3 years out. And I don't know what specific projects were tied to that, but otherwise you're correct.
so I know that when we said we were going to, we tried to even up rates with the O&Ms and things like that, and people got upset, and some people said to us that, you're just collecting more money, and not really. We're really trying to look at this as a whole. And right now, it's looking really good, and we don't have to increase rates. So hopefully we can stay there again in the year after, that we won't have to increase rates. We just.
You don't hear that very many places.
No.
So, yeah.
But what's helping us is that we're really looking forward to getting a bunch of this FEMA money. And if we can get that with the reserves that we have, we should be able to knock the heck out of that CIP. We should actually be able to do all we need to do. And I was just talking to some people at Orchid Cove too. I'd just love to be able to do some sharing on the community center and pool to get it off of their plate if they want, because but you know what, that's down the road, but I'd really love for this community to have some kind of a,
Any final supervisor requests?
We have one.
Final public comment?
I just have, are you gonna be?
We need
leaving
your
the-
name just because
I'm
our
sorry?
minutes are transcribed.
Joyce Carlino, Orchid Cove. Are you going to be leaving the fishing boats at the rate that, the same as a condo as they were last year? I'm paying the same thing for my boat slip for a fishing boat as I do my condo.
well,
You're looking at,
That's part of our,
we haven't got there yet, but that's part of the negotiation that I'm doing with, or the board's doing with Scott Preppin.
Okay.
Yes, that is, there's very, I can't say more than that, but yeah, that's gonna be addressed.
So it's still under.
Yeah. But we hear what you're saying. I went to that meeting yesterday, I heard them loud and clear. The one thing that I also did bring out of that meeting yesterday was how many people are so disgusted with the speeds of the boats and the pontoons going up and down our canal in here, and the manatees getting wounded and whatnot. I really wish there was something we could do about it, because I personally don't even go down to my dock hardly anymore, because it just, it bothers me so bad to watch all that going on.
I don't know why it seems that the Florida Fish and Wildlife and the county sheriffs have discontinued their policing of the speed limits in the port and out towards the Gulf. So it is getting faster and faster. It's commonplace to get passed by the guides for sure, come right down the canal and just blow right by you. That's commonplace. The manatee boats were always fast.
and that big giant boat, what's that big giant
That's a
sightseeing
tour
boat?
Tour boat.
He came down the canal the other day.
Half throttle,
Oh my God.
yeah.
So it seems
I thought that was like an eco tour.
I haven't seen it. When, a few years back, you quite regularly see the sheriff or Fish and Wildlife out there in the canal, just hanging out, making sure everybody's going the right speed. I haven't seen one in 2 years
They haven't been around.
out there, no.
Well, anybody who has the ability to make a change on this to help slow this pattern down, if they could help us do that, I would really appreciate it, because it's gonna get to be a point here where there's gonna be a day of reckoning, because the people who are talking to me are really getting upset about it. So if there's something we can do, please do it.
thank you. With that, then,
Sir,
Hi, my comment.
could you please come up here?
Thank you. Mitchell Khan, Stella Maris North. My comment is based on the topic raised by Mr. McNamee regarding the property circumcised by Fokker Union 41 and Case Drive. And even though I can't make a motion, but I'd like to propose that that property be considered never to be sold, to enter that quagmire of sale and resale and another sale, and then the use of that property being out of our control. I think that POI should have total control over that and for future development or non-development, but I hate to enter into that fingernail biting situation, that because we live over there, what's going to happen to that?
You're talking about the 3 acres that we already own, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I hear you loud and clear, don't disagree with you.
Maybe deed restrictions.
That's the other thing. We, if we were gonna sell that property as a community, we have the ability to put deed restrictions on it, so we could control what goes on it, but I understand you saying you'd like to keep that green space forever. You know what?
I
If
don't
we,
think that's what he said.
no?
No, he just said that if it sells or doesn't sell, whether it stays vacant or not, we don't want to get in a quagmire, as he said, that, okay, it gets sold to one person who was going to build but then doesn't, and sells it to another person, and now they throw a gas station out.
Was that your intention, or you just want it never sold?
If it was my choice, I would take a vote on never sold outside of the POI.
Yeah,
The uses would be up to us.
yeah.
Because if things get out of control, then it's lawsuit after lawsuit, fighting with people who bought it and contractors, what's going to be.
See, I agree with
Money
you.
talks.
I agree with you, if it were just me personally, not the board. If this community can afford to keep that green space, I'd like to see that as well.
Did I overhear that incorrectly that the taxes on that parcel is $26,000 a year?
No, we don't claim
Yes.
it.
Being that we own it, there is not assessments on it, because we'd be assessing ourselves.
Yeah.
Last year was the last
So
year.
there's no,
The prior owner.
there's no annual cost then?
No, not currently.
Okay, keeping it.
Thank you for your opinion.
And it appears that it would only go up in value as time goes by, possibly.
It'll only go up in value if you're ready to sell it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ted?
Deb?
Deborah Jansen, Sunrise K. If you guys could just give me a clarification on what you said, that the hotel owner has paid $800,000, and then you also said that something is going on the auction block, and I'm unclear about what you're talking about.
No, I said
no,
that
the
any
tax
unpaid taxes after May the 1st are scheduled to be sold at a public auction that occurs the third week of May. So somebody is going to pay those taxes at the auction if they are still delinquent and unpaid at that time.
But you aren't referring
That's
at
normal.
all to the hotel?
No, that's normal. That's all, only the assessments. If you don't pay your county after so many months, it gets sold for tax certificates, which is an auction.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you, Deb.
With that, then the appropriate.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Leo Ramos. I got a quick question about the taxes. What exactly are the taxes paying in terms of the services that we get at the Port of the Islands, such as maybe, I don't know, hospital or schools or anything of that nature? I just see the taxes going up, and I'm just wondering what services are we receiving for it?
Should be on your tax bill. Go on the county website.
Yeah, you can go on the tax collector's website and type in your tax folio or ID number, and it will
Or your
break
name.
out the entire tax bill. The largest taxes that you pay are in support of the school board, followed then by the fire district, and then the county's unincorporated areas fund, and then, mosquito control and South Florida water management, and it'll break it all out for you.
Thank
That's all I
you.
had.
Excellent. Okay.
The appropriate motion then would be to recess this meeting and reconvene next Thursday on May the 22nd at 9:30.
I'll make a motion that we continue our meeting until next, what's the date? Thursday?
I think it's the 22nd.
22nd.
That's my suggestion.
Yes.
That works for
I'll make
me.
that motion.
Second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So anybody who wants to come on next Thursday and continue with this, and if you got some ideas, bring along.
Thank you all.
Otherwise, thank you for coming.
Couple of sprinklers in the end, I hope they will.
Well, that was short and sweet.
No, the world record is trucking, 45 minutes.
Baloney.
You were in
Yes.
town.
You went to town,
That's why.
here's the world record.
That's what enables me.